everyone and welcome back to Mariana Math Books. My name is Mariana and today I am here with my Historathon 2023 Block 1 TBR. If you didn't watch, doesn't matter. If you didn't see my announcement video, I'm going to link it in the description. Historathon 2023, it's a year-long reading event dedicated to reading nonfiction history, historical nonfiction books. And the way it's going to work is we are going to divide the year into 4 parts. So block 1 goes from January to March, and for block 1 we are going to be reading from prehistory to 500 AD. I think that's the correct term in English. It was created by Bean at Revenant Reads, and there are a bunch of co-hosts who I will link down below. I won't go into more detail because you can see my announcement video in the description, or you can look for the hosts' announcement videos. But today what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what my TBR is going to be for this first block of the year, which starts today and goes all the way through March. So if you want to join, you can read non-fiction historical books that go from prehistory to 500 AD. This is just my pile of books I want to read, but you can pick any book you want to read from any region, from any type of history, art history, or social, political, whatever kind of history you like. Without further ado, I'm going to go into my pile of books that I want to read for the next 3 months of the year. Before I start, you know how this goes. There are a bunch of books in the list, and I would like to get to all of them, but things happen, you never know. Sometimes you don't read all of the list of the TBR, sometimes you read less, sometimes you read more, sometimes you read other books that weren't in the TBR because you discover other books as you go along. So this is, as of now, the books I am planning to read from January to March. For the video, I am dividing them into physical books, audiobooks, and ebooks, and it's in no particular order. So I don't know what I'm going to read first, what I'm going to read next. I like to mix and match. So these are for the next 3 months, and I'm going to start with the physical books. I had bought most of these books before I knew of this readathon, so it was perfect when Bean invited me to participate, because I was already planning in reading a lot of history this year. And one of the books that I had bought is this tiny, lovely book by Linda, Rosa, Manzanilla, Naim, and it is a very tiny book about Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan was one of the 3 great tolans or cities from the Mesoamerican era, and when I took the Mesoamerican history course in university, the time we devoted to studying Teotihuacan was my favorite, and so I was very excited when I found this little book. Teotihuacan is actually from after 500 AD, but this book starts from the origins, like how it formed, and so it starts from the correct time period and it will end after 500, but I thought it wouldn't be a big deal because it's history and it starts in the correct time period and it's very short. So I am going to read this one hopefully January 1st. There are a lot of family things going on in my life at the moment. I'm actually filming early because I really want to get this video up and I have a lot of things that I have to do. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it, but if not, I do want this to be at least January 2nd, I don't know, but I do want this to be my first read. The next book I want to read is also about Mesoamerican history, and I think I should have prefaced this video by saying, in case, because I have been getting new subscribers from this readathon, so in case you're new here, I am Mexican and I live in Mexico, so I will be a central part of my reading for this event will be Mesoamerican and Mexican history. I will also be reading other things because I'm also very interested in European, especially medieval history and things like that, as you will see. But for my physical books, I had recently bought a bunch of Mesoamerican history, so that's what I will be focusing on. Mesoamerica is divided into 3 periods. It actually, the rise of the cultures that we know from Mesoamerica happens after 500 AD, but there was the pre-classical period of Mesoamerica, and the biggest and actually the first culture in Mesoamerica that's actually known as the Cultura Madre or mother culture, which sounds weird, but that's how it's called, is the Olmecs. So I will be reading about the Olmecs. A lot of these books that I have are in Spanish, but I will roughly translate the titles. So yeah, so it won't be super boring for you guys to watch. So the book I'm going to be reading about the Olmecs is titled just like that, The Olmecs. And it's also a short book, and it is The Olmecs by Jacques Soustelle. And then the other Mesoamerican history book I will be reading, that is actually the one I am most excited about, is this super heavy book. I don't know why it's so heavy. I have a hard time holding it up, but it is The Origins of Power in Mesoamerica. If you saw my last year's holiday book haul, you saw this book because I bought it last year, and I haven't gone around to reading it, and this is a perfect event to dive into this book. It is an amazing book, and it starts from the pre-classical period and it goes all the way up to the Aztecs. I don't know how I'm going to approach this. I don't know if I'm going to read these sections of the book that are appropriate for the time period of the first block and then read the next ones during the next quarter, or if I will read the totality of the book and just in my wrap-up talk about the relevant time period and then talk about the next time periods in the next wrap-ups. I haven't decided how I'm going to approach it. I'm going to start reading it and then I will see how I want to approach it. But this, as the title suggests, is the origins of power and formal government in Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica was organized in what they called city-states. I don't know if that's how historians translate it in English, but in Spanish is Ciudad es Estado, so I'm just translating literally. This is the origin of how the city-states came to be, and it goes from the pre-classical period all the way to the Aztecs. So the origins of power in Mesoamerica by Enrique Florescano, who is a Mexican historian. The next 2 physical books I have, I'm going to be reading in chunks because they are actually short books, but they are collections of you'll see. I will show you. Why am I talking? I will show you. So the first one is Historia Mínima de México, which does have a translation in English, and so I'm going to translate it literally, and literally it will be Minimal History of Mexico, but I am not sure how it's translated into English officially. So in the description I will leave the title. If you don't know a lot about Mexican history and you would like to have like a summary of Mexican history, this is an amazing book to get. So I will get I will put the title in the description box, because this actually like I would think the most recommended book if you want to dive into Mexican history. This is a summary of Mexican history. So it's a collection of chapters by different historians, and it goes from Mesoamerica to present day. And I'm not sure how present is the present day. What I will do is that I will read the appropriate chapters for the appropriate time period. So I will read the first chapter for this time period, and then I will read the next chapters. And so it's a short book, but I will be reading the appropriate time period chapters for each block of Historathon. And then the other one I have that is also a collection is called Profetas del Pasado, which means prophets of the past, and it is a collection of conversations and interviews with different historians about different topics, ranging all the way from human sacrifices in Mesoamerica to the independence, the revolution. So there are conversations about different time periods and different topics. So I will be reading again the appropriate chapters for the appropriate time periods for Historathon, so I will be dipping in and out of this one as well. The final physical book I have, I want to mention it because I think it's Historathon 2023 adjacent. I don't know if it counts, but I think it kind of does, and it's a very different type of history, so that's why I want to show it, because I want to show you that you can read a lot of different types of history, and you don't have to be limited to like political, social, economic history, you know? And this is called Dragons, Serpents, and Slayers in the Classical and Early Christian Worlds, a source book by Daniel Ogden. And this is again adjacent to Historathon because this is more like history of myth. So this is a history of all the dragons that appear in the early classical worlds and early Christian worlds, which is the correct time period. But you know, you can decide for yourselves if a history of dragons that appear in actual historical human records, you know, you can decide if this counts or not, but I wanted to show it because I think it's Historathon adjacent, and I think it's interesting. And this is like folklore history is another type of history that I'm really interested in, and I think it's something else that you can explore in this readathon. So those are the physical books. Now I'm going to move to the audiobooks. I'm going to try to be quicker because I do have to go do family things, difficult family things. I wanted to get this out of the way because I really want. I was excited to film this video. Shut up, Mariana, you don't have time. I'm going to be quicker. Okay, so audiobooks I want to read. The first one is so this is a famous one, and this is SPQR by Mary Beard, and this is actually one I have already started, and I am body reading it with my mom. We are listening it together, so we are going slowly because we have to coordinate for moments when we can keep listening to the book. But we are both loving it, and I would like to finish it between January and March. So SPQR by Mary Beard, which is, if you don't know, a history of Rome. So yeah, the next one is The Horse, the Wheel, and Language, How Bronze Age Riders from the Eurasian Steppes Shaped the Modern World. So this is about kind of like the origins of language, which is also super interesting. And again, the title is The Horse, the Wheel, and Language, and this is by David W. Anthony. This one I was super excited that it was available as audiobook in the subscription that I use because the Kindle version was so expensive. And I didn't want to get more physical books because I'm slower with physical books and I already have a bunch of them. Then the final one is called The Invaders, How Humans and Their Dogs Drove Neanderthals to Extinction by Pat Shipman. And this presents the argument that dogs played a big part in why Neanderthals went extinct. So this is like prehistory, and this is paleoanthropology. This one I had added to my list as a tentative book, And then I recently saw one of the co-hosts video, Erica at Passage of Time. She is an expert in prehistory. That's what she went to school for. So she made a video of recommendations about prehistory books. I will link it if you are interested. And she mentioned this one. And so I was already kind of like, I had a tentative in my list. And when I saw that Erica recommended it, I thought, okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and add it to my list. Yeah, and then finally, ebooks. Okay, so another topic I'm very interested about is, as I said, like Europe, medieval history, that type of thing. But a topic that has come up in my medieval European history readings that I have been super getting into is the history of Christianity. And a topic that personally fascinates me is early Christianity and when it existed alongside paganism before Christianity was the big thing, if if that makes sense. A book I found that, again, I had added it to my list and I was considering it, and then in the Voxer group chat for this readathon, I asked for recommendations on early Christianity, and I mentioned that I had found this book, and a lot of people said that they were adding it to their lists as well. John David, who is also a co-host, he said that he had already added that one to his list. If you watch his TBR video, you will see that book. And so it happened similarly than with The Invaders, where I was considering the book, and then when and John David and other people in the group said, "Oh yeah, I'm also adding that to my list," I thought, okay, yes, I will go ahead and add it to my list as well. So it's called Pagans and Christians in the Mediterranean World from the 2nd century AD to the conversion of Constantine. And I think I'm very especially interested in reading about paganism, which is a topic I'm very interested in. And then I have The Cult of the Saints, Its Rise and Function in Latin Christianity by Peter Brown. Peter Brown is an author that John David recommended in his video. I will link his video. He mentioned another book, but I went and looked for his bibliography, and this one jumped out to me. It sounds very interesting. So it's The Cult of the Saints, Its Rise and Function in Latin Christianity by Peter Brown. And finally, I have another recommendation, also from John's video, but also from the Voxer group chat from this event. And it is The Early Church, the Story of Emergent Christianity by Henry Chadwick. So as you see, this is a topic that also very much interested me. And finally, and I'm going to wrap it up because I have to go. Finally, in March, there is Middle Grade March. And Middle Grade March is an event to read middle grade. I personally love reading middle grade, and I know that some people who watch my channel also read middle grade. So I was thinking it would be fun in March to read some middle grade history books. And so I went digging, and I have a lot of books I want to read, but I chose 3 for this time period that I want to mention. I will be making a video in March about middle grade historical nonfiction books to speak more about them, but I'm going to briefly mention the 3 that I want to read for this time period, and it is, firstly, and this is the one I'm most excited about, The Thrifty Guide to Ancient Rome, a handbook for time travelers by Jonathan W. Stokes and illustrated by David Sosella. And this one is a series of middle grade books that manage history as time traveling. So you get all the details for your spaceship and, security tips for time traveling and that type of thing. And it looks excellent. Super fun. And then the other one is You Wouldn't Want to Be a Greek Athlete by Michael Ford and illustrated by David Antrim. And this is a middle grade series that's called You Wouldn't Want to Be a. So you wouldn't want to be a Greek athlete. You wouldn't want to be a Sumerian slave. You wouldn't want to be a Roman soldier. you wouldn't want to be a worker in the Statue of Liberty. They have many titles. There's one also, you wouldn't want to be a soldier in Alexander the Great's army. You go look for them, they look super fun. And then finally it's a series that's called Who Was, so it's more like biographies, and I chose Who Was Confucius because I know nothing about that side of the eastern side of the world, and Confucius is a very big person in history and I know nothing about him. And when I saw it I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to pick up a middle grade about Confucius to get the beginner version and start learning about that. So it's Who is Confucius, and that is by Michael Borgan, and Robert Squire is the illustrator. And again, if you look for that series, there are tons of biographies for different characters all throughout history, including the present day. There's even one about Ronaldo, the football player. So Steve Jobs, like, and Julius Caesar, like it's all kinds of people throughout history. So those are the books that I want to read for block 1 of Historathon. Again, I'm going to link my announcement video down below and a brief description of the event. But if you are interested at all in historical nonfiction, this is the event for you. I have to go, so I'm going to wrap it up, but definitely check out the videos I will link. I will leave you with this. I have to go. I hope you have a good New Year. I hope you have a great 2023. I will see you in another bookish video, and in the meantime, I wish you happy reading.